everybody, and welcome to the first Lunch and Legislation. Today's topic is What's Up with Lame Duck? My name is Bea Friedlander, and I am president of the Board of Directors of Attorneys for Animals. And I'd like to welcome you. So let's launch right into this. We all know what tomorrow is, of course, Election Day. What about the day after tomorrow? For those of us in Michigan, we are about to start the lame duck session, which begins Wednesday, November 4th. As you'll see, Michigan is one of only a handful of states that, as one pundit put it, is, quote, treated to this biennial post-election Game of Thrones, otherwise known as lame duck, end quote. We only have about 10 minutes, so here's what we'll talk about. First, what is lame duck? Second, how did it get its name? Third, what to expect over the next approximately 6 weeks. And fourth, what can you do? First, what is lame duck? By way of background, and here I'm talking about the Michigan Legislature and, to a certain extent, Congress. They have a beginning and an end point. They just don't go on and on and on. These are 2-year terms. They begin in January of the odd-numbered years and continue until, well, that's kind of the point, and we'll talk about it in a minute. Michigan is among one of only a few states, as I said, because they do not have an end term. One of the big inflection points of the session is toward the end of it, and that is the November election. So the current session began in January of 2019, and it will end sometime before the end of the year. And again, I can't tell you because, as I said, there's no date certain in Michigan. What happens at the end of the session? In a word, any bill left unpassed will die. It can be reintroduced in the next legislative session or in Congress, but they do not carry over. So what is lame duck? That simply refers to that part of the legislative calendar that occurs after the November election and before adjournment, sometime before the end of the year. And it's going to be in even-numbered years. Second, how did it get its name? And here I will say I usually refer to it with air quotes, lame duck session, and I invite you to do the same thing. In a way, it's kind of disrespectful to ducks, and I think you'll see as we go along, it's a completely inaccurate name. The term originated in the 1760s and in the London Stock Exchange. In around the 1860s, here in America, it started to refer to American political situations where it describes a politician or a legislature on their way out. Third, what to expect in lame duck. Let's look at the numbers. In Michigan so far this legislative session, about 3,500 bills have been introduced. We're not talking about resolutions. About 450 of them have passed into law. That's about 13%. So that means for about 87% of them, the next few weeks is a do or die proposition. By the way, this is a better odds than in Congress, where only about 1% of the almost 16,000 bills introduced have passed to date in that session. The analogy is the end of your school term, the realization that it's now or never, You start frantically reading, you review your notes, you may get together with study groups, finish papers and other projects, and you may end up pulling overnighters as you head toward or maybe careen toward the end of the semester. That's a pretty apt analogy for what's going to go on in lame duck. Here are some ways in which it has been explained. Frantic, fast-paced, lack of transparency, uninhibited. One Michigan legislature said, quote, late-night sessions and last-minute votes. It's an opportunity, unfortunately, to cram through controversial legislation, and some would say it can be a power grab. I'm going to give you one example. It's from 2 years ago, and it was in December 1st of 2016, and it was introduced, Senate Bill 1187. It had to do with wolves. In less than 4 weeks, it was fully enacted into law. This was a bill that had to do with designating wolves as a game species, or who could, when they became delisted or not protected under the Endangered Species Act. Now, it passed against the will of the voters and with a provision, very undemocratic, that did not allow voters to do a referendum. It passed with suspension of rules and little or no opportunity for opponents to be heard. Fourth, what can you do? 2 things. First off, keep apprised of the legislation that is pending, both good or bad, animal-related bills that you want to see passed or that you want to prevent from happening. I will tell you that one good resource is Attorneys for Animals Legislative Tracker. That is on our website, and also you can find it on our Facebook page. Second of all, be aware that your inbox may be inundated with alerts from Attorneys for Animals and other animal organizations telling you about important actions that are occurring with regard to these bills and what steps you need to take. So please open those emails and take those steps now that you know what lame duck is about. Now, finally, I'm going to wrap this up with a quote from a colleague, Richard Angelo, a Michigan attorney who works for Best Friends Animal Sanctuary. And he is familiar and works a lot with Michigan legislatures and legislatures around the country. And Richard says, quote, expect the unexpected and stay ready to react quickly until the very last minute of the session. Regular schedules are out the window and procedural rules are regularly waived. Sessions will be longer than usual, so be prepared for long, tiring days. In a previous session, I was in the Capitol until 3:15 a.m., end quote. So, in conclusion, lame duck, I think the better name, if we want to keep the animal reference, would be roadrunner session. If you have questions, leave them in the chat or email us or put them in Facebook Messenger. And that's the end of our first lunch and legislation. We will see you at noon on Monday, December 7th. Meanwhile, stay safe and vote. Thank you.